I have never met anyone like Bob Kogod. He has the mind of a businessman, the eye of an artist, and he has the heart and soul of a patriot.
Everything he's done in his career was aimed at taking a somewhat lagging city space and transforming it into a world-class capital city.
It's a fantastic place for people to come and visit and live. He's been a huge part of making that happen.
In every critical aspect of what builds a community and what builds a great city, Bob has played a major role.
Always trying to look for that next step to move forward and make it become a different place and a more sophisticated place for generations to come.
When we were in the process of designing a center for American theater, there was envisioned from the very beginning a new theater created for risk and innovation, a smaller theater space designed to actually cradle the work. There's an entryway into the design that goes in a spiral.
As you spiral in to the smaller space, you lose the memory of the big space.
In the early conversations with Bob, he immediately said, "It's Richard Serra," which of course was the influence.
He caught on to the concept of the torque ellipse. He said, "Well, what material are you going to build it out of?" And I said, "Well, I like to build it out of concrete, but Washington is not a very good city for concrete, so we may have to do it out of steel." And he said, "Well, it'd be much better in concrete." That is the magic between a patron and an architect. A kind of synergy there where there's a trust in each other, and we have to sometimes push each other to do better.
This really became a signature building. This has changed profoundly what Southwest Washington is. And that's the kind of vision that Bob Kogod saw in the design.
His role here at American University is impossible to overstate. His philanthropy has touched every significant aspect of this university. From the physical environment, through the curriculum, to the composition of the faculty, the composition of the student body, Bob's impact is everywhere.
If you look at the Smithsonian, the things that we've done from a buildings and facilities point of view for over a decade, a lot of that has been driven and guided with Bob's deft hand. Architecture is a real passion of his, and so he brings that to the table. And he also brings a practicality about, okay, architecture's great, but then we have to ultimately turn it into something that we can actually build.
There are few people in Washington that I admire and respect more than Bob Kogod. We worked closely together to build the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Once we determined that the museum would be on the site on the National Mall, the challenge was, what would the building look like? I wanted a building that had character, but also I wanted a building that reflected spirituality, optimism, and resiliency. I realized that the one person I needed to make sure was involved in this process was Bob Kogod. He really thinks that architecture, the buildings, really are not just symbols of a city, but they are the cauldron where a city is made better, where a city is changed. And so I think in some ways, Bob has helped to change Washington, maybe in ways he doesn't even imagine.
When we decided to pursue a master plan for the South Mall campus, he really pushed us to look for an architect who would challenge us.
any creative process needs champions that is willing to actually bet on things that maybe only he or she can see. And in the case of Kogod, he placed a vote of confidence in me and my team at a time where that was a very bold move.
In 2000, he became the overarching patron of the Patent Office building as it was entering renovation. The Smithsonian's idea was just to replace the plumbing and the pipes and the wiring. But Bob Kogod walked through and said to the secretary, "This is a landmark building, one of the most important historical structures in the nation." And based on his vision, we completely redid the plan. And we did what he said, make it the best it can be. And it was Bob's idea that we should cover the courtyard so we could use that space every single day of the year.
Bob is one of those rare people that you meet in life who doesn't throw his weight around to get what he wants. He was never afraid to challenge, but always in a very gentle way. And I think it did bring out the best. It's an extraordinary achievement to have created this social heart in Washington.
It's one of the highlights of my career to work with such an ambitious and thrilling and dedicated partner to achieve something magnificent.
Bob and Arlene have just been tremendous supporters of the cultural life in Washington, D.C. Today, I think to myself, wow, what a tremendous place, what a tremendous city, and how much potential even beyond where we are today. And it's thanks in large part to people like Bob Kogod.
It's an old architectural saying that the architect can only be as good as the client. And it's really with, generous and inspiring clients and donors like Mr. Kogod that architects can do what we do. So I think we want to thank him and honor him for all the work that he has done in supporting communities, in supporting architecture.